Hi everybody, my name is Lori H. Schwartz and I'm principal at a company called Storytech, where I'm looking at the latest trends in marketing, technology, and media. And I'm very excited to have the chance to interview Guy Shalem, who is a very well-known writer, director, producer, who is really advancing the nature of storytelling by playing with a lot of different formats and sort of leading us to what the newest storytelling format is. So welcome, Guy.
Hello, nice. I'm glad to be here.
And you have, you are Israeli-born. You came to the U.S. with a storm, and you've written, directed. You've worked for a lot of major networks. I know you did some work with Betty White too. You got to do something fun with her.
I got to work in comedy. I was an executive at Fox for many years, and then I got to develop the first TV series that Jane Lynch was in, a half-hour comedy called Love Spring International. I started my life in reality TV, so that was kind of interesting, and learned a lot through the process. And lately I've been experimenting with new types of storytelling.
So, and one of your big claim to fame is that you shot, directed, wrote the first full iPhone movie with Bryan Singer as your producer. Yep. So tell us about that, because that really sort of launched it all for you in many ways.
Yeah, so it was an interesting experience where I was working on Betty White After Rockers for NBC, and there were difficulties with the production. I said, I miss that feeling that I once had when I was a filmmaker, where you have the freedom to do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
Can I say hell?
You can say whatever you want. They can bleep it later.
And I thought, what better way to take yourself back to film school than to take this incredible tool that you have in your pocket and go out and shoot a movie without a crew, without the bureaucracy of producers and fighting over the money, and just go out there and try to tell a story. And I chose a narrative that depicted my first relationship back in Israel when I was a teenager. And I thought, okay, this will be an interesting topic. I only gave myself a day. We had very little money, and went out there and created the narrative that borrowed elements from everything I learned about in reality shows, in comedy, in drama, and fictional. And the idea was, how do you then edit it together to something that touches people's hearts, that is effective? And to be honest, when I finished the short, I didn't think much of it. If anything, I had a voice back in my head saying, what was I thinking? Why would I leave a network show to do something like this? And we screened it I was on a boat, friends of mine's boat, crossing the Panama Canal. And that was the first time we showed it to a bunch of industry people. And they were all in tears at the end. Huh. And I couldn't. It was shocking, as shocking to me as it was to them, I think. And then we ended up going back to LA, cutting it down, then showing it to everyone, all of our colleagues, including Bryan Singer, and Jane Lynch, who ended up putting their name on it. And we screened it at DGA, and it was the same thing, like big screen. Something was shot on an iPhone 5, ended up being like.
Yeah, but let's take a look at it, and I want to hear because the thing that's unique about it, I mean, in my mind, is the image of it is of the, it's the iPhone shape. So it's very different from what we're used to seeing, especially in long form.
Right.
So let's take a look at the video.
Yeah, it's actually just a trailer that we're going to see for the movie is 20 minutes long, and you can find it online easily.
Feelings for someone else. We're gonna find you a nice cougar.
A replacement?
No, a Band-Aid. I'm thinking back in my head now of all those times where I was like, maybe. Is that something? Stop. Just denying yourself an experience of what you want. Just go home. Out about it. You're making a big deal of it.
Of course it's about you.
How is it about me? I'm just saying that,
And just for the record, I was told by Jane not to be very encryptive about the story of the film, because she wanted everyone to experience the story without telling anything in the trailer. So every time I edit something to the trailer that showed too much of the story, just like, no, cut it out. We just keep it on the surface. I want people to actually experience it.
And what for you was the most challenging thing about this? In terms of shooting something with limited equipment. I mean, your phone.
Yeah, there's nothing. It was just two the two actors, one has never acted before. I think that was the biggest challenge, is to pull a performance out of an actor who's never acted before. So it's in a way I was teaching him how to be an actor as we were making the movie. The other thing is like, being that I'm an editor, to think about how I'm going to cut this. So we came back with 8 hours of footage, and in my head I was already trying to cut down, okay, this is the moment, this is the beat, that's the, And also, to let go. To kind of, there was a moment where, because it's shot like a fake vlog, they were telling the story as if it's happening to them. And the idea that we let the actor, not only help with the writing, but actually help film the movie. So it's teaching them what I want, but at the same time, letting them go and experience some scenes on their own. So some of the best moments in the movie happened when they went out on their own and shot the scene 10 minutes without me. And I came back and I was like, we would trade phones and I would, look at the...
Yeah, I love that you just said I would trade phones.
Yeah, we would trade literally. We had 2 phones, so it was
And
like...
you've just had a tremendous response to this.
Yeah, the reaction, it's still in a way happening. Like there's a one person Canadian guy, I think it has 100,000 views, that he published it last month, May 19, and I've been tracking, people have been putting it on their site, on their channel, and the reaction it's been getting is unbelievable. Like
And
the
still,
hundreds of comments. Yeah, even more relevant now. It's kind of more popular now than it was when it came out.
And why do you think that is?
I think because the visual vocabulary of the storytelling is more relevant now than it was when we were a little ahead of our time.
You mean it being so, what we may call cinema verite, or just really in your face?
Yes.
Really like I'm living and breathing this moment with you.
Yes.
Very improvisational.
Very intimate, very real. Right. What's interesting, some of the comments that I've read say, "Ooh, I didn't realize this is a movie. I didn't realize this was scripted until the end.
Right.
I thought it was actually a vlog." And then some people said, "I usually hate the cinema verite. I don't like the handheld camera, shaky stuff until I saw this film."
Right.
So it's like, it's really interesting that in essence, what bothered people about the format originally actually works in this well, I think.
And so what for you as an artist, what did you learn from this, and then what are you doing now to propel it more?
So my feeling is, so I started as an editor, and I got to work on shows in the same vein as The Real World, and John Murray is my mentor today. What John said,
Bunim
Murray, yeah, he created The Real World, and what's interesting, The Real World came in '92. Nobody recognized that reality shows are going to be the next big thing.
Right,
it was
right.
like Big Brother was a few years away, Survivor. And I essentially think it's the same thing about this format. To me, it's very obvious that this is the natural progression of storytelling. Yes, there's a lot of technique that goes into it. Yes, there's a lot of thinking that goes into the editing and directing and how to write it. But I also think it's pretty obvious that this will be the next language of storytelling in this ecosystem. It makes
right, and
sense.
is it always going to be holding the phone like this?
So no. So that's
Okay.
another thing. So recently, and we can show the trailer for live next or whatever, I've shot a 1-hour story that is vertical and created a much more complicated story than Ronnie and I. We took the story of Pretty Woman, which is a movie I love, reversed it on its head, so it's an older woman and a younger guy. And
I like that.
Right, there you go.
Just personally, I find that interesting
Absolutely.
for some reason.
What's the 2018?
Yeah.
And try to tell a story of, what if, much like Richard Gere in the movie, she lost her GPS, broke her phone. She's new to town. She's no way to get home, and he shows her the way to Hollywood. And what if, in exchange, he says, "I got to film you, or I gotta, let me film our exchange." And it's interesting. Same thing that happened with Ronnie and I. When in the beginning, people said they were bothered by how it didn't make sense that they would operate the camera all the time. Like, why would that story, why would that work? In live, it was really interesting. It was like also like 10 minutes into the movie, when we tested it, everybody had the same feeling. It was like, oh yeah, this is really, we forget that the camera is operated by
Yeah, let's take a look at that at live, because what blows my mind is the
That's vertical.
Yeah, it's vertical, and then you get used to it, and then it's normal.
Are you lost?
Yeah, this
I
frame
don't really
is
know
just.
this area, and I feel like I keep driving around. So you could just tell me the quickest way to get to Hollywood. That would really help.
All right. Here's the deal. I'll show you how to get to where you need to go. But A, I get to film, and B. Hey, look, we all have bad days sometimes, you know.
Whatever.
I've pretty much been filming every waking moment since I was 9 years old.
Why?
It's something that we used to do together.
Maybe someone smart will invent some type of device that can film you from like that.
That would be cool.
The future.
It's a little invasive.
What are you filming there? He's feisty.
He likes to film everything.
I'm okay with being invasive.
Tell me one thing you don't share.
Well, it'd be hard because
They wanna know.
I don't share it.
Why? It wasn't your fault what happened with your sister. Why didn't you say it? Say it. I want you to say it. Maybe I don't. No, I want you to say it.
You're after the trust funds. You're after the trust fund.
When really it's all complete illusion. We're all outside. We're all one and we're all connected, but it's the illusion that we have individual sources of wealth that is the cause for all the isolation and unhappiness that we experience, that you experience.
And you don't even know me that well. You're not in love with me, so it's not a heartbreak, it's a trust break, but it just feels the same.
How do you know I'm not in love with you?
Maybe we should film something together.
Well, you never had sex in a tree?
Why am I talking about this? No.
Wow.
In a tree? No.
Touched a nerve. Okay, no sex in trees.
No.
Maria does
Okay,
not like
first-
sex in trees.
No,
Everyone take note.
I've never had it, so I didn't say I didn't like it. I'm just saying I would not do it. Anything you can and say will be used against you. Maybe focus paying attention to what to show people. Maybe you'd actually really have something there. Tell a story.
I went to high school here.
Why didn't you say anything at the house? Surprise!
Because humans like to watch other humans. It's in our nature.
3, 2, 1. Ready or not, here I come.
Progression to anything in this medium.
Right.
Because it's starting to use elements that we already used to. You know, when we go through our friends' stories on Instagram, don't you notice that you look for the comments or you look for other devices that communicate the story? So why not use it in a narrative storytelling?
So is your vision then of the future of narrative having that component where the audience is participating that way?
I believe that stories don't change. I believe that technology changes. And I think that if you can add a layer to the narrative where the audience is engaging, or even if the comments are informing the story in a certain way and the audience is not engaging, that's a really interesting way to play with narrative, isn't it? You know, much like when the Real World came out and they created the whole idea that interviews are telling what we're seeing in the B-roll, correct?
Right.
And then Modern Family took that and used it in a scripted format.
Right.
That's what but it first came in reality, right? So all I'm doing is I'm taking, and this is actually the next good slide, which I think gives a hint into, there's the emergence of chat fiction. And chat fiction are a bunch of companies that basically create chat stories. They're scripted, but they come at you like you're reading somebody else's text. And I think if these companies didn't do as well as they do right now, I would be out of a job.
So this was happening
I think that,
on the side of what you were doing.
yes.
So it's all kind of coming
It's
together.
all converging together. And that's what I think is really interesting about what I think would be a challenge, and that's why I want to be the leading force is to take everything that professionals have learned from fictional storytelling and apply it to this format. It's not just, to create these chats or to make these chats interesting, you still have to employ professional and smart writers to write them better than
So
anyone.
how do these work exactly? Like a bunch of folks are watching a conversation happen in chat?
Yeah, you basically, you go on there's a home screen, it looks like Netflix. You tap on a story that seems interesting to you, and then the story comes at you as in the form of text where it says like, are you serious? It's not bad. You kind of learn about the characters as if you were learning about whose text you're spying on.
So it's also very voyeuristic.
It's very voyeuristic.
And so then I would be able to share what I'm thinking about the chatting with a friend who may be watching the same thing?
I don't think they've done that yet, but that would be an interesting idea.
And for you with live, people were sharing their feelings about what they were watching. Are they all watching it at the same time?
Well, no. With live, these are scripted texts.
Okay.
But the idea that in the future, I think they can be an app, or they can be a channel, or they can be different. There's many other ways to explore it further, where there is an interactive element that goes hand in hand with the narrative. But that's yet to be explored, and I think that there's a lot.
Are we now here then with what the screen is?
I think it seems like Instagram just launched Instagram TV, and they're looking for vertical content. So
is it still going to be a square though, or is it with this way? Or?
Well, with live, we played with the two formats. You saw like the old camera as an homage to how he was when he grew up, but then also the vertical. So it's a combination of both. Yeah.
So the question that comes up for me a lot when I'm talking to people, especially right now with VR and AR and all these interactive technologies coming along, being built on top of gaming engines, and a lot of people say to me, no, you can't have narrative and interactive at the same time.
Right, and as a storyteller, that is a dilemma. You have to be sensitive, because at the end of the day, Soderbergh just finished doing a feature on an iPhone that recouped its money in a weekend. It's really great, but it's hard to believe that just because somebody did a movie successfully on an iPhone, any filmmaker can grab. There's still a craft.
Right.
So I think we have to be sensitive about the interactive element and how to converge the two. At the end of the day, storytelling will have to be preserved through the artistry, through the craft, through the professionalism of
And
it.
so technology becomes, a layer.
Technology is the tool. Technology was always the tool. The storytelling is the essence, so it's a combination of both worlds, I think.
So interesting. So
just because it was before in there using because I think the real world makes it an easy pill to swallow. But just because the real world was such a cheap show with unknowns shot on a DV camera doesn't mean that anyone could have grabbed 6 of their friends, put them in a house, and shot the real world. There's a lot of storytelling and craft that went into creating that show.
Right. So everything will still have those same skill sets. You're just combining it with some other techniques and trends. Yeah. And is a lot of this because of the behavior of, the millennials, the Gen Zers, them being so involved in touching and engaging with devices?
I think there's a psychological reason for it. Not just. I think that ultimately, if you look at the evolution of storytelling, go back, in time 50 years ago, and think of monster movies. What's the difference between Godzilla from like 10 years ago to Godzilla from 50 years ago? It just, through the storytelling techniques, through the fact that in Jurassic Park you see first the dinosaur shaking the ground before you actually see the dinosaur, you're creating the illusion that whatever you're watching is real. Stories stay the same. Authenticity is ways of telling things authentically is what evolves. And I think that if I can tell a story that feels, where you engage in 2 characters told with an iPhone and a very little budget, then why can this not be the next movement in narrative and in independent storytelling?
Right, and you have studios and networks kind of coming to talk to you about it and wondering like what it all is. And I know you put together this chart when you're looking at the game changers, and is that online video and people's behavior?
I think we're and I'm talking to AT&T, and I'm talking to a bunch of different players about the possibility of like either creating an app or creating technology that kind of sits there right in the middle between the two worlds of like, what's traditional television is, what cable has done, what digital, and then also these are by the way all the chat fiction apps that are emerging on the market telling stories, and they're also trying to do some video. So I think I think what ultimately I want to do is bring big Hollywood, like the Soderberghs of the world, the Bryan Singers of the world, and to create content in this style on a platform that would be, that would live in this ecosystem and only in this ecosystem.
So merge storytelling and technology,
Yes.
and then consumer behavior all kind of coming together.
Mm-hmm.
So the expectation then for, say, our kids right now, as they're coming up, is going to be that storytelling will happen on a very interactive platform.
I think it just seems like there's no other way. It just seems like the natural progression. It doesn't, all indicate, because of the chat apps, all indications are like, and also the fact that they're spending more time looking at people's stories on Instagram that they don't even know. And when you ask, we did this focus group at AT&T, and I just sat with a bunch of Gen Zs and asked them, why are you guys so engaged? Why do you prefer watching people's stories on Instagram that you don't know? These are not your friends. These are people you just don't know. Then watch something on Netflix. And their answer was, because Netflix feels predictable to us. It feels like something that our parents would watch. And by the way, that's exactly the same answer I would have given at their age had I seen The Real World, when I saw The Real World then. I'd be like, why NYPD is so better produced than The Love Boat? This is a better story. I'm like, absolutely, but it doesn't feel as authentic as The Real World. So I think that ultimately technology stays the same. Story stays the same, technology changes, and with that, a desire for one thing, authenticity in storytelling.
So, and you're wrapping it all together.
Yes.
And where can we see whatever it is you're working on? Are you posting new stuff?
Wait, give us some time. I mean, but I think the movies, the two projects I've done, we'll release the live at some point. We're being strategic about it, but the story, even Ronnie and I, is enough to show you how powerful 20 minutes with two iPhone 5s and two actors. One is, again, one has never acted before, and if I showed you some of the footage, you'll believe it. But there is a craft that goes into creating a performance that feels.
And you made that creative choice too.
Yeah.
To pick him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you wanted that authenticity.
What I'm trying to do now is I'm teaming up with this production company that represents a lot of influencers that, as you know, in the past have been a challenge to try to turn into viable stars or storytellers, because there's almost like a wall between traditional scripted, the way it's done on Netflix or on network, and what those influencers are doing on their channel, which is be wacky and crazy and be themselves. Well, I say, why is there no way to bridge those two? Why is every attempt fails? And there's something you can see on my site,
which
that
is what?
GuyShalem.com, easy to find. It's a pilot I did, I think, 9 years ago, where it was somebody else's idea for me to work with Simon Rex, and who had this very interesting Hollywood story that I thought, oh, that's primed to turn into a comedy. And I was asked to work with Paris Hilton and Lance Bass. Both are wonderful individuals, but not the craziest actors. There was a challenge there. So I thought, what if I create a character that is a version of themselves, much like what Curb Your Enthusiasm is doing, and it worked. And that pilot, I think, is actually my favorite out of all the things I've done. My favorite piece of work, because it proves that if you can make Paris Hilton brilliant, and we literally had some, you can do it seriously.
Anyone can be brilliant, right?
Yeah.
But you're talking about the authentic. You just helped her get to her authentic self.
Through the writing and through the directing and through the way we crafted it and the.
And just to close out, what advice would you give a young filmmaker coming up now? I mean, if there's such a thing as younger than you, but I mean, is
I'm old. There's I think absolutely experiment. Like the tool that you have in your pocket is more powerful than what landed on the moon. So it's like there's definitely Charlie Chaplin's first camera. So there's no reasons for us not to create all the time. So always create. But at the same time, do team up with polished filmmakers. Who a lot of what I learned was because I worked with John Murray, was because I was mentored by people who are really smart about how to take innovative techniques in storytelling and apply them to the technology that you understand intuitively. They know how to shoot vlogish type iPhone material on their own. It's just what they need is probably the craft, the structure of the storytelling.
That's great.
And that, that's my ideal, I think the purpose of all of this is to try to build a little maker studio, united artists of form.
Right.
That,
Bring together all the talent under one roof.
Yeah.
Well, it's been so much fun talking to you. I'm
too.
Lori H. Schwartz with
Thank you.
Storytech. We've been talking to Guy Shalem, who is doing all sorts of wonderful things. Check out Ronnie and I and Live, and we'll be looking forward to seeing what else you do. And check out looking at full feature films this way, right? Really
Let's
cool.
hope,
Thank you,
yeah.
everybody.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Right.